those of us who like fine flintlock rifles or even percussion muzzleloading rifles generally also have an interest in powder horns. It's hard not to like these things. I mean, they're beautiful in their own right. They require an incredible amount of skill to put together. And, of course, they don't cost as much as a rifle, which makes them a little bit easier to get a hold of. But really, it's a high form of art. And I know I certainly enjoy looking at powder horns whenever I go to a show, and I have a few myself in my collection. And the organization that supports contemporary horn making is the Honorable Company of Horners. And basically they operate as a guild organization for horn makers. And they're really dedicated to educating their own members, the horn makers themselves, and educating the public about horn making and its history, the techniques, and trying to raise the overall level of the craft. I know quite a few members of the Horn Makers Guild, and I think they're a very impressive group of folks. And as you can see from these horns I'm showing you here, they turn out some phenomenal work. As part of their mission of educating the public and their own members about the history and methodology of powder horns, the Honorable Company of Horners has published its first book, and that's Bone-Tipped and Banded Horns, Regional Characteristics of Professionally Made Powder Horns. It's the first volume. It's by Jay Hopkins, and this is a gorgeous and highly detailed book, and well worth having. What Jay has done is he has basically put forth a theory that he has supported for a long time, that first of all, powder horns were not made as an afterthought by gunsmiths. They were made by professional horn makers. And that you can identify regional characteristics of powder horns just as you can with rifles. Just as we know there are Lancaster County rifles, and there are Bucks County rifles, and there are Virginia rifles, and Tennessee rifles, and North Carolina rifles. And because we've cataloged those characteristics, if we get a rifle that's not signed and not marked, you can generally determine where it was made based on those characteristics. And what Jay has done is he's applied that same methodology to horns. Over a very long career of collecting horns and looking at horns and trying to place characteristics of similar horns acquired in similar areas, he has determined the characteristics of horns made in different areas. And this book really deals specifically with bone-tipped and banded horns. And if you're wondering, what is a bone-tipped horn? Well, here's one of mine. And basically, the end of the horn is a separate piece that is not made out of horn. It's made out of bone, and in this case, it's a screw tip. So you can unscrew that bone tip, and you can then fill it up with powder from the larger hole, which is very handy. And of course, the bone is a much harder material than the horn itself, so it's stronger and it can stand up to having the plug pushed in and out of it. So in a nutshell, that is what a bone-tipped horn is. So here's a pair of bone-tipped horns, and the horn on top is a banded horn. So you can see there are 3 bands, and they're made of separate pieces of horn that are turned and shaped and fitted over the main body of the horn as a decorative piece. And this is a typically southern feature. This book has 385 pages of meticulously researched information. And it's just beautiful. It has hundreds of full-color photographs of horns like these throughout the entire book. And it's a wonderful resource if you're making horns, or if you're collecting them, or if you just have an interest in fine powder horns. This book is a must-have. It's available from the Horn Makers Guild, so you can order it directly from them. And I'll put the address up here, but it's www.hornguild.org, and you'll see a link on their homepage for ordering this book, and it's well worth it. I hope you enjoy it.